Welcome back. So we've had the Super-Pro lower control arms and Feal 441 suspension installed on our Project 335i here for a little over a week. Got some miles on it. Wanted to come back and kind of let you know how the install went and kind of give you our initial impressions of everything now that it's been on the car for a little bit. Before we dive into that, just wanted to say real quick, if you like this channel, if you like the content that we're putting out, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton. And the very best way to support this channel to make sure we can keep coming back and creating content for you is to go over to our website, which is flatironstuning.com. If you've got anything there that you might need, your business goes a long way to making it possible for us to come back and make more content. So please like and subscribe and head over to Flatiron's Tuning. So we'll dive into the lower control arms first. With the 335i, if you're looking to upgrade the lower control arms, you pretty much boils down to having two choices. The E90 M3 front lower control arms, and the reason for that is you've got a different design in the lower control arm that gives you a little bit of extra negative camber, and you've got a firmer bushing in the front of the tension arm. Or the Super-Pro control arm kit. Their lower control arm is off the same design as the M3 to give you that extra negative camber. They also have a firmer bushing up front, but it has got an eccentric hole in it, which gives you caster adjustment. Now the way that works is this tension arm bolts to the knuckle, here, but it goes forward to the front of the car. So that eccentric, as you're moving this arm back and forth, that lets you move the front wheel in the arch forward or back, and that's what lets you adjust caster. So we opted for that, put it on there. I will say that the way you adjust the eccentric is on this backside here. It's got a little bit of teeth. Super-Pro gives you a little, it looks like a tiny little coilover wrench to move that. And it was actually quite easy to adjust the caster, just to set it to full forward and put it on. Before we did this, one of the behaviors that I had noticed with this car was if I was going around a corner and hit even a mild bump, kind of like a deep seam in the pavement, or any kind of a bump, it really seemed to unsettle the front of the car. And it really seemed to make the car kind of hop towards the outside of the corner, really kind of lose grip. What I can definitely say after installing these and we've lined the car and I've driven it, that behavior is pretty much gone. And I would attribute that most likely to maybe the additional caster that we added, but also the fact that just everything with the Super-Pro kit is holding that front knuckle in place a lot more firmly compared to the stock rubber bushing with some pretty decent sized voids in it. So I think the movement of the front knuckle is largely eliminated, and that's what's making the suspension up front just behave more consistently. So overall, it definitely feels like the front end is much more planted, much more consistent, and definitely happy with the Super-Pro arms so far. It's definitely a good kit. Now onto the coilovers. So the Feal 441s. On this car, it's just the standard 441s. Feal has pretty much become our favorite coilover for most applications, for a couple reasons. One of them is because they have so many options. They've got, their 441s, you can add Swift springs, but what we really love is the road race kit, where Feal will custom calculate spring rates for you and then adjust the valving for you to match the spring rate. We've done that on Ryan Dusick's car, the DSX Motorsports WRX, and also Jeanette from Red Queen Racing on her BRZ. She has a set of the 441 road race kit. Had really good luck with both of those. We've also put them on Viet's Civic race car. All of those have had really good results with them. Now for this car, when we got the 441s, the spring rates from Feal, and there were Swift springs, was a 9 kilogram front spring and a 14 kilogram rear spring. Now initially I was a little bit nervous about those because they were just a touch higher than what I would have kind of expected or maybe would have ideally wanted, or at least so I thought, before we put them on. To give you kind of a ballpark, the front springs were about 3 times as stiff as stock, the rear was just under twice as stiff as stock. So the concern was that it was going to be a harsh ride, but in talking to Feal, they assured me that the ride quality was great. And that is one of the qualities of the Feal suspension that we've noticed in talking to pretty much everybody, but especially Ryan and Jeanette and Viet, who've done these custom road race springs with higher spring rates. Pretty much across the board, their feedback has been, given the spring rate, the car really rides much better than you would expect. The biggest example of that might be Viet with his Civic race car. It's fully gutted, probably weighs just under 2,400 pounds, and they calculated for him a 20 kilogram per millimeter front spring, which would seem like it would be absolutely punishing on the street, but Viet said like he really wouldn't hesitate to drive it on the street because it just rode much better than you would expect. And what I can tell you is, now that I've had the 441s on this car, is that is absolutely my experience. It is surprising how good the ride is. One of the things going in is one of my concerns, I didn't want to put on such a stiff coilover that it kind of ruined the car, that it made it really bouncy, feel like it had a really firm ride. And in the back of my head, that was one of my concerns going in, but we put them on and I've driven it around, and that is absolutely not what happened. It has been snowy here, so I haven't really had a ton of chance to put a lot of miles on the car. But because of that, I'll also say there's a lot of ice on the road. A lot of the roads are decently rough, and I am just stunned and super happy with how good the ride is. You know, train tracks used to be I could hit the train tracks, didn't really have to slow down or worry about it. Now, definitely want to slow down for the rough train tracks because it is a little bit harsher there. But everywhere else, it is extremely close to what it used to be like. The body roll, though, is significantly reduced. It really feels like the car is really just locked in. You know, between the Feal springs and then the Super-Pro control arms, you know, the car feels super flat in corners, and it just feels like it's got oodles of front end grip everywhere, really, and just wants to turn. So really impressed with that. The car has been aligned, really didn't do anything aggressive with the alignment. And Feal, you know, gave us the build sheet up front because the coilovers were fully assembled. They had preset or set the preload for the spring, and they'd also preset all the dampening for the front and the rear. So we really didn't touch anything. And again, really just super happy with it, and really pleasantly surprised at just how good it rides. I'd say it's probably about 90% the quality of the stock suspension, but yeah, in the corners it just really wants to turn. I will say the other thing with the stock suspension that was kind of a point of contention is really seemed to bottom out easy, especially up front, and taking everything off. In the rear, actually, both rear struts were pretty much blown, and you can see it was hitting the bump stop so often that it's partially disintegrated the bump stop on both sides of the rear struts. So it really was almost too softly sprung, and just hitting the bump stops a lot. So, and that doesn't seem to be a problem now with the new Feal suspension. So pretty much just have confirmed all of the experience that other people have had with the Feal suspension, and couldn't be happier with it. So yeah, it's two more big steps towards making the car feel more like an M car versus a kind of a more pedestrian, just a 3 Series. So really happy with both the Super-Pro loader control arm kit and the Feal 441 coilovers. So yeah, so thanks very much for watching. We really do appreciate it. If you liked the video, please drop a like and subscribe. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.